The verdict of obedience of Sharia court against a disobedient Muslim wife. This is a love story written in English and translated into Arabic by Dr. A. Ahmed. Copyright. All rights reserved. All characters in this book are fictitious, and any resemblance to real people, living or dead, is purely coincidental. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in the retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer who may quote brief paragraphs in a review to be printed in a newspaper, general magazine, or a school or university journal. This is a love story about three Muslim girls who are subjected to gross injustice, severe violence, and abhorrent persecution by Muslim men, religious leaders, Sharia judges, and police officers in the Islamic community and the religion of Islam, and it is hostile, hateful, and abusive teachings, religious teachings against women's rights, which are innumerable. For example, beating of women, child marriage, circumcision of private parts of Muslim girls, which is known as female genital mutilation or FGM, slaying them in honor killings, inequality between males and females in inheritance, testimony in court, marriage, divorce, men's guardianship over women, controlling their lives and destinies as if they are minors, physically handicapped or mentally retarded, and forcing them to wear the abayas, veils, hijabs, niqabs, or the humiliating black burqas as if they are ghosts. Many Islamic countries prevent women from going to schools and work, and they are forbidden to practice any kind of sports, and they are not allowed to go to gymnastics, beaches or swimming pools, cinemas or theaters, or act in films or in plays, and none of them is allowed to leave the house without her husband or with a man. The woman is forbidden to marry, such as her father or brother, who is known as muhram. They are also not allowed to fall in love with men before marriage or choose their life partners or husbands. The story is about three innocent girls, namely Intisar, Firdos, and Muna. Chapter 21, an important phone conversation between two bad guys. The wealthy business tycoon Mr. Osman Al-Taib has postponed his important business trip to the capital of Greece, Athens, for 2 weeks due to his severe lip sickness. His doctor strictly warned him not to talk for a while. He was told to fast for at least 10 days of speech. He is forbidden of eating food with his teeth and tasting it with his tongue. He is also forbidden to eat any food that requires chewing. He has to live on liquids and other types of foods that do not require the use of his lips and tongue. Since he is not good at eating, the restriction on eating don't bother him as such as the restrictions on speaking, because he's a man who has a big mouth and always loves to talk and order people to do his job. 3 days have passed since he started fasting from talking. On the fourth day, he called his servant Harun and asked him to come and help him in his daily activities. When the wicked servant came, the vile old man began to have a hard time with him. Whenever he wanted to say something to him, he would use his hands. Many times, Harun misunderstood his master and did the opposite. This repeated misunderstanding annoyed the old man, and he became angry with his servant. Several times, he lost his control and slapped or kicked the servant. When the beating became too much for Harun, he came up with the brilliant idea of connecting the two. He brought two notebooks and two pens. He gave his angry master a notebook and a pen and kept the other two with him. After that, he wrote in his notebook the following short message: Dear sir, I have a good idea for you. From now on, if you want to say anything to me, write it down in your notebook and give it to me. I'll read it and do what you want me to do. Likewise, if I wanted to say something to you, I would follow the same method of communication as the two of us. Your obedient servant, Harun. When the old man read the written letter, his face showed a faint nod, which the servant took as approval of the wise idea. From that time onwards, a better communication was established between the two men. So many written messages passed from the head to the other brain. In some rare cases, the signal connection was also used. Such cases where the evil old man wanted to rape the unconscious body of the innocent girl Firdaus, he will point his hand down and the veiled slave will go under the bed and hide. Anyway, on the fifth day, while the old man and his servant were sitting silently facing each other like a hyena and crow, the phone started ringing. The old man pointed to his hand toward the phone. The servant got up and went and took the speaker. Welcome, say yes. Mr. Osman Taib is present. Would you like to speak to him personally? May I know your message? My message is private and confidential. The server repeated the caller's words. When the old man heard the last words, he rose from his chair, rushed to the speaker, and snatched it from his servant. Then he put it in his mouth and tried to speak. He was in great pain as he tried to stop from fasting of the restriction of talking. So he slapped his servant because he did not remind him of his fast. The servant took the receiver again and said, Hello, are you still there? Please wait, sir. Mr. Osman al-Taib wants to talk to you. Then Harun extended his hand with the receiver towards the angry old man. The old man became very upset and slapped and then kicked his stupid servant. Harun's mind became more confused, so he picked up the phone and spoke. Welcome. Are you still on the line? Yes, he is here, but he is not in a position to talk to you. He has a bitten lip. This is none of your business. Please do not ask too many unnecessary questions. Just pronounce your message and I will write it to Mr. Osman Taib. He can read, but he cannot speak. He will write his reply and I will read it to you. There is no other way. Yes, this is the only possible way to get your message across to him. Not tomorrow, not even for a week. If it is very urgent, tell it now. If he doesn't like it, keep it to yourself. Before Harun could disconnect the line, the angry old man quickly wrote a message in his notebook and showed it to him. The servant took the notebook and read it out loud on the phone. At least ask him to tell you what his name is. The old man got angry again and slapped and kicked his foolish servant. So he took the notebook from him, scrapped the old message, and wrote a new one. The servant took the book and read it as it was. Please tell me what is your name. Then the veiled slave looked at his wicked master and said in a loud voice, I am the police inspector Hussein Hassan Hassanin from Al-Gadari police force. The old man became very anxious when he heard the name of the caller. Wherefore he took his notebook and wrote a quick letter and handed it to his stupid servant. I'm Mr. Osman Al Taib, the servant read aloud. Please do not hesitate to reveal your private and confidential message to me. Harun angrily says, I'm lying to you. Why I lie to you? Would you cut my tongue? I would cut your neck. What if you are a police inspector? I'm a bodyguard and I also have a gun. The old man got angry at his arrogant servant and then snatched the headset from his hand and disconnected the line. Then he wrote the following message in his notebook. You are a very foolish servant. You are good for nothing. You are like a woman, a body without a brain. It is only good for bed sex. How dare you insult my friend Inspector Hussein? He is the most honorable police inspector in the city of Al-Gadarif. He can send you behind bars forever. When Harun read the above message, he also took out his notebook and was about to write his reply, but stopped when he heard the phone ring again. The old man directed him to the phone. The servant took the headset and started to speak. Welcome, Inspector Hussein again. I'm sorry, sir. He's the dumbest person I ever seen. He's good for nothing. He's like a woman, a body without a brain. What do you mean, sir? When did I tell you that Mr. Osman Taib is like a woman? You are like a woman, a body without a brain. The old man snatched the receiver and disconnected the line again. He was tired of his stupid servant. Then he wrote an urgent message in his notebook and showed it to his foolish servant. Accordingly, Harun went out and came back a few minutes later, followed by Zakiya, the nurse. The old man wrote a letter on his book and handed it to the nurse. I want you to act like my private secretary, read Zakiya silently. My important friend called twice, but the stupid man Harun failed to receive his message. Instead, my arrogant servant insulted my best police friend, Inspector Hussein. So if he calls again, take the phone and ask him politely to tell his message. Tell him my boss is sitting with me, but he can't talk because his lips are sick. Say also he can communicate his message through writing. Zakiya, the nurse, smiled and said she would follow the instructions. Yet the arrogant servant Harun still wanted to be useful, so he gave his notebook to the nurse. What should I do with this notebook? The nurse asked. If you want to say something to Mr. Osman Al-Taib, write it down and give it to him to read, and then he writes his reply. But he is not deaf. He can speak, but he can hear. He cannot speak, but he can hear us, so we can talk to him. Before the servant could impose his foolish idea on the cleverness, the phone started ringing again. Mrs. Zakiya went and took the phone and started to speak. Welcome, sir. Yes, Mr. Osman Al-Taib's room in the hotel. I am his private secretary, Miss Zakiya. Yes, sir, he is. I was out when you called. Yes, he's a silly and arrogant servant. He always gets us in trouble with my boss best friends at work. My boss has sharply corrected him. He was bitten by a bee. The doctor had sternly warned him not to speak for 2 weeks. Yes, we are alone. Feel free to send your private and confidential message through me. Wait a minute until I tell him that. Then the nurse put her hand on the receiver and said out loud, he said your new wife's brother got you and him into serious trouble. In response, the old man wrote a quick message and handed it to the nurse. What did Omar do? Then she began to repeat aloud what she had heard. The good citizen who exposed the crime of kidnapping and rape committed against the innocent girl came to my office and said he knew the criminal magician's hideout. I told him that I would not accept his information until he proved to me that he was a good citizen. When the nurse repeated the above information, the old man approached her and touched her shoulder. Wait, sir. Mr. Osman Taib wants to say something. Then the old man wrote his opinion on a piece of paper and gave it to the nurse. Why don't you arrest him and charge him with the crime of Umar, thus turning him from a good citizen into a bad one? This cannot be done now, the nurse responded, because your brother-in-law Umar has already betrayed us. The good citizen forced him to write a full confession of his involvement in the crime of kidnapping and rape and the bribery, which acquitted him. Sir, please wait. Mr. Osman al-Taib has had a heart attack and collapsed. Then the nurse Zakia left the receiver and rushed to the old man. Harun reached him in time and prevented him from falling and breaking his neck. The evil old man had not completely lost consciousness. He is waiting, trembling with fear and way, gnashing his teeth loudly as if he is eating a raw meat of a human being. His private nurse quickly revived him and rose again. As he was trembling and panicking, he wrote a quick message and sent it through the nurse. Was Omar forced by the police or the good citizen to expose us? And who is the police inspector who had stopped him? The key repeats Inspector Hussein's words out loud to the old man. Please, sir, be patient and brave. I don't want you to have a heart attack and die, and I really need you. There is no police inspector involved yet but me. Things are still under control and Omar has not yet been arrested. Those words made the old man relax and take a seat. Then he waved his hand to the nurse to continue calling. As I said, the good citizen forced the criminal Omar, the magician, to write and sign two confession papers. In the first paper, he confessed his involvement in the kidnapping and rape of an innocent girl. In the second paper, he stated that his son-in-law had bribed Inspector Hassan Hassanin, and thus his name was removed from the indictment. The old man came quickly and touched the nurse on the shoulder. Wait, Mr. Osman al-Taib wants to write some words. The old man thought for a while and then wrote down his thoughts. You said that Omar mentioned that his son-in-law had bribed Inspector Hussein Hassan Hassanin. Am I his only son-in-law? How do the police prove that I am the one, not Hassan Mahjoub al-Hilali? Inspector Hussein reacted angrily to the old man's reasoning, raising the nurse's voice to 10 times higher. You are a selfish old man. You only care about yourself. Like it or not, your full name, Mr. Osman al-Taib, was written on the confession papers, and I won't go to jail without you. But you and your evil son-in-law, Umar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, will go before me. The nurse stopped screaming and looked with anticipation at the old man's response to the grumpy police inspector's harsh words. The old man took his notebook and wrote his apology. First, he read it silently and was satisfied with it. The nurse also read it carefully before faxing it to the angry police inspector. I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings or hold back. I assure you that I will be with you, whether inside or outside the prison. I know I put you in this workforce position. I will stand by you and fight our way out of this problem. I'm also willing to give all my money to protect ourselves from this evil plot. The angry police inspector seemed to accept the apology because the nurse Zakia lowered her voice by 10 notches. Please, sir, don't make me mad again. Your first wife brother really ruined my day. The good citizen wants some money to shut his mouth. He demands 10 billion pounds and Omar's sister, Badriya. So you pay the ransom and Omar should hand over his sister Badriya and the problem would end. The old man wrote down a quick message and handed it to the nurse. What will he do if we refuse to meet his evil demands? You are asking a very silly question. Of course, he will go to the police station and send us behind bars. And you will never get out of the dungeon alive because of your advanced age. The old man wrote a quick question and gave it to Zakia. Then what should I do? You are asking a very stupid question again. You should come as soon as possible to Gadaref city and buy our freedom from the blackmailer. Some doubts entered the old man's mind, so he wrote them down and showed them to the nurse. I do not think the blackmailer is the same good citizen who directed you to the crime scene. I have some real doubts. I think the criminal Omar and his evil ringleader did some tricks to steal my money. Would you still hold on to your suspicions if I told you that the gang leader Al Wish and another ugly criminal named Shakush with Al Haram were arrested by me yesterday? Another bright idea popped into the old man's frightened mind, which made him happy. So he wrote it down and gave it to the nurse. Sir, I have a good suggestion for you. Why don't you put on Shakush Omar's accusation and then let the good citizen fuck his dirty ass with the confession papers? Listen, Mr. Osman Taib, I'm a police inspector and therefore I know the weight of confession papers before the law. I already had done these ideas, but if you don't pay the ransom money, surely it will fail. Again, the evil old man wrote down his reply and gave it to the nurse. In that case, I will issue a check in your name, as I don't trust Omar. I will send it to you tomorrow by the speed post. You cash it in and settle the deal with the blackmailer. I can't go back to Gadaref city because of the condition of my sick lips. Besides, I started enjoying my honeymoon with my new bride Firdos in the capital city. Listen, sir, I'm not alone in this matter. You know Omar can't move his leg. I can't use my policeman in such an illegal business. The good citizen told the criminal Omar that he would not come himself, but would send his friends to collect the money. Suppose if they are smart and take the money without giving the confession papers of Omar, how can I handle such a situation? Therefore, I need you to cash in the money and get some bad guys. Once again, some doubts were raised in the old man's brain, and he wrote them down. Have you inquired of the so-called good citizen? How did he find the six criminal Omar's hideout? He said he saw him in the Sharia court. The mention of the Sharia court brought the old man to his feet again. He rushed to the phone and snatched the receiver from the nurse and put it in his mouth. Try again to stop fasting his talking. A sudden intense pain like electric shock hit his mouth, spread throughout his body like burning fire. From the top of his head to the soles of his feet, the pain extended like burning live coal. As a result, the old man instantly collapsed. The nurse and the servant Harun ran to save him. The stupid slave arrived first and put his rough hands on his master's lips, thinking it would help him. In response, the old man showered him with many slaps and blows. The nurse, who supposed to be the best started to clean the Osman mouth with her handkerchief. When she saw the receiver swinging, she took it and said, "Are you still on the line, sir? Wait, please, Mr. Osman. The tape has collapsed again." She turned back to the old fox and continued to fan his burning lips. The lustful old geezer brought his hands around her waist and hugged her as if she is his fifth wife. And she does not care whether he did it out of parental affection or a human lust, but rather surrender her sexy body to him until his pain subsided. Then she helped him get back on his feet. After that, she took the handset and waited for her boss to explain the reason for his sudden second collapse. With fear and trembling, the old man wrote a question and gave it to the nurse Zakia to fax it. Then the good citizen appeared the name of Sami, Salah, Intisar, or Farida. None of those, and especially the last two names. Either man has a man's name. His name is Walid Hamza. The old man is not satisfied with the inspector's answer and then writes another question. Then why did he come to the Sharia court? That is none of my business. When you meet him in person, you can ask him this silly question. The old man was still suspicious, so he asked another question. Can you describe him to me? He is neither tall nor short. He is good looking, but not that handsome. He has an angry face and brown eyes, with a mustache and without a beard. He has black skin and curly hair. The old man was still trying to dispel his doubts. So he wrote another question. The descriptions don't match either of those two bad boys, Sami and Salah. But I still have doubts. How did this man know where my new brother-in-law, the magician Omar, was hiding? Either he followed him after the trial in the Sharia court, or somehow directed him his house. The old man does not ask a question this time, but a guess. So he wrote it down and gave it to the nurse. If the blackmailer is one of those loafers, he will not care about money. He will use the confession papers of Omar to force me to divorce Firdos, my wife number 4. Can you make yourself clear? The old man remembered that Inspector Hussein is not aware of his quarrel with his son Sami and his girlfriend and friend Salah. So he explained the question in a few words and presented to the nurse. To make a long story shorter, one of those tramps is having a love affair with my beautiful new bride Firdos. He might try to pressure me into releasing her to him. In this case, what will you do, sir? Are you going to keep the guy's girlfriend with you and send us to jail? The old man was very upset and then expressed his anger with the following words. What do you mean, sir? Do you think I am like the Munaster al-Wihsh, who used 5 criminals and kidnapped and raped an innocent girl? Not only am I not ready to go to jail, but I would rather die than let another man touch one finger of my beautiful first wife, Firdos. She is more important to me in my earthly life than the 72 eternal virgins in my heavenly paradise. Do you allow any man to touch your wife's body or commit adultery with her and put his cock in her hairy pussy, or spend 5 minutes with her in your bed, at your house, and that also in your absence, as if he's a muhallil and you are like a beam for her? Even our infallible Prophet Muhammad, may God bless him and grant him peace, said, when a man and a woman isolated themselves in other's company, Satan will be their third partner. The police inspector could not answer this question and therefore had to withdraw his proposal. But he wanted to know how the lustful old geezer knew his only wife, Magda, had a hairy pussy, but he hesitated to ask that question. However, he replied with an apology for the difficult personal question. Accordingly, the nurse, Zakiya, politely repeated his apology. I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings or interfere with your private married life. I know that you have a first underage wife who is really beautiful and has sexy body, indeed. And I saw her stunning beauty with my own eyes when I brought her to you to spend your honeymoon with her in the international Hilton in the capital city. And that is when we applied the verdict of obedience of the Sharia court on the disobedient wife. But can you tell me, sir, how we will escape from such a trap that your brother-in-law Omar put us in it? The old hyena wrote, wait. The nurse read it to the police inspector and waited for further instruction. Then the old man put his hands on his back and started walking back and forth in the room. Most likely he is trying to plot some mischief. Suddenly he stopped and wrote what he thought would be a suitable solution. The nurse read it to herself first, but she didn't like it. She looked at her boss suspiciously. The old man pointed his finger at the font, indicating that she should fax it whether she liked it or not. In this case, she read aloud, we must kidnap Intisar, my sister-in-law, and threaten those tramps to hand over Omar's confession papers within 24 hours, or we will rape her. Sir, I think you have a criminal mentality like your brother-in-law, Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. For me, I would rather spend the rest of my life in prison than participating in the kidnapping and rape of another innocent girl. Besides, how could you think of such an evil plot against your sister-in-law? The old man found himself in a awkward situation, and yet he still stuck to his evil plan. What I meant was just threatening them, but not real kidnapping and rape. How can we rape someone's wife? Intisar is a married girl, and her legal husband is Hassan, the son of my best friend, the great politician Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali. Do what you love to do, but don't get me involved in it. I prefer facing the law with the crime of bribery over the crime of kidnapping and rape. The old man hurriedly wrote his closing words before the inspector opposed his dangerous scheme. Your request has been granted, sir. We will not involve you in the kidnapping and rape plot. Would you permit me to inform my new son-in-law, my new brother-in-law, Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, to invite him an important emergency meeting at his home by some respected gentleman in the city of Agadarif, the blessed Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, the Imam of the largest mosque in the city, the mighty witch doctor Haj Muhammad, and the greatest politician in town, Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali, in an urgent emergency meeting at 8 p.m. tomorrow. I will arrive at Gadarif airport at 6 p.m. After that, Nurse Zakiya waited for any comment from the police inspector Hussein, but the line was cut off. Chapter 22: True Repentance for an Evil Muslim Girl. In the meantime, the girl Badriya Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir started the restoration work in her blind grandmother's house. On the first day, she spent many hours cleaning, washing, sweeping, dusting, changing, moving, replacing all furniture with new ones. She spent the second day throwing away old things and bringing in new ones. Therefore, the renovation work took 2 days. From the first day, her mother, Hajja Sakina, presented a series of complaints. Many items disappeared from the house, such as sheets, tablecloths, sofas, spoons, plates, cups, and wall pictures. On the second day, the mother discovered that important things such as tables, chairs, benches, rugs, mattresses, pillows, and curtains had also disappeared from the house. When the mother learned that her daughter had stolen or rather moved half of the house furniture and other things to her grandmother's house, she became very worried. She concluded that her daughter planned to leave them and move into her grandmother's house. Her mind also told her that perhaps her daughter thought that the fearsome gorilla man Shakush Wad al Haram might frequent his visits to their home. If so, the mother herself decided to move into her mother's house and leave her son Omar with his friend, the gorilla. So she went and questioned her son about the possibility of making such visits of his ugly friend. However, the sick son told his mother that she and her daughter would never see that face again because he had been arrested the same night he left their home. He was charged with rape and kidnapping. When the mother understood this, she decided to go and bring the good news to her daughter. When Hajja Sakina arrived at her old mother's house and saw Badriya and three of her girlfriends making the finishing touches, she was astonished. In her heart, she envied the old woman's house. She wished that her daughter would have used the same talent and effort to renovate her home instead. Then she took Badriya aside and started whispering in her ear, I know you want to leave the house because of him, but I have good news for you. He was arrested and sentenced to life in prison. The daughter thought her mother was talking about her son Omar. Then she grabbed her hand and said worriedly, I had just left him at home. When was my brother arrested? I'm not talking about Omar. I know you are afraid of the ugly man who looks like a gorilla who came to our house, and because of him, you decided to leave your house. I will not leave our house. I'm just expecting my significant friend. He's coming to visit me today. Who is he? He is my school teacher. He will come to see me this evening at 7. He will give me some Ferris hand lessons on how a girl should choose her life partner. First of all, didn't I tell you not to meet a man alone? Second, have you forgotten this evening that we are expecting very important guests in our house? I can't put it off. The promise has already been made and I can't change it. How can you meet your teacher alone in this abandoned house? He might rape you, impregnate you with a pastor, then kill you and run away. And not meet him alone. All these girls will be with us. The mother swallowed the lie and went back to her home. The four girls continued to decorate the house for Badriya's new boyfriend. The other three girls also smuggled some furniture and utensils from their homes. Besides, they have been working faithfully over the past 2 days with Besides, they have been working faithfully over the past 2 days with Badriya to pave the way for her first meeting with her new boyfriend. They make such efforts because she promised them that they can use the abandoned house for their romance as well. After the mother left, work continued for 3 hours. After that, the girls had a lunch break. During the lunch break, Badriya received a lot of good advice from her friends. Most of the advice came from a girl named Hanan Habiballah. She is more experienced in the field of romance than the others. She has 5 years of experience tucked under her belt. During those years, she had love affairs with 6 boys. 2 lovers left her, but she cheated on the other 2. The fifth lover had committed suicide because she left him and fell in love with the sixth lover. So she believed that her long experience in love has qualified her to give the following advice to her inexperienced friend in the field of love. When your new lover comes, Hanan says in a sweet and soft voice, don't rush immediately and open the door for him. Let him spend at least 5 minutes standing and knocking on the outer door. This would create some fear in his heart and thus increase his longing for you. Don't worry and think that he might stop knocking and leave. No lover will give up so easily. He will walk down the street and back again. When you open the door for him, don't talk to him until he comes. As you walk, don't forget to swing your body. You have a big and sexy buttocks, and this will make him very hot. After you bring him here, apologize and get out. Before you go, tell him you'll be back in 5 minutes. Take at least 10 minutes. When you come back, bring cold drink with you. When you give him the cup in his hand, go and sit farther away from him. Don't start the conversation. Let him start first. Never tell him I am glad you came, or that I love you, or that I miss you. When he tells you all these sentimental words, you smile and remain calm. Moreover, do not rush to open the issue of marriage. Also remember this important advice. Never allow him to get what he is supposed to get after marriage. I made this mistake with 2 boyfriends, and that is why they dumped me. Many girls fell into this trap and their lives were ruined. This is because no boy in our Islamic society will marry the girl who allowed him to have premarital sex with her. You can let him kiss you and juice your teeth. He can do it with you in the ass, but not in the pussy. Tell him from my belly button and up above to you now, but you can get to the bottom only after marriage. In a clear sense, never allow him to take your virginity, break your hymen, and insert his large cock in your small pussy. Don't be fooled by phrases like I love you, I'll give my life for you, and nothing but death will separate us. My final advice is don't run after him, let him run after you. After the lunch and wise advice session ended, the girls started decorating the beloved for her lover. This session took a lot of time because some changes and matching were considered very carefully. For example, the shoes should match the dress, the lipsticks should match the cheeks, the earrings should match the necklace, the watch should match the bracelets, etc. So the beautiful Badriya is finally groomed for her handsome lover, Walid Hamza. After that, the 3 friends wished her to have a good time with her new boyfriend and said goodbye. When Badriya was left alone, her mind filled with money thoughts. First, she thought of her new lover. There is no doubt he is a handsome and educated person, but how could he be a good man and have a friend like her brother, who is a criminal and a drunkard? Wherefore, her mind concluded that he is not a good man. But how could a bad guy speak politely while talking to her that day in her room? Moreover, she compared him to the monster gorilla man Shakush, who broke into her house shortly before Walid came. They appear to her as a demon of death and angel of love. Therefore, her mind rejected the idea that Walid is a bad guy. Second, she thought about her bad brother Omar. She started thinking of him. If Walid does not know the evils of Omar, what will his reaction be when he finds out? The first answer that occurred to her was that he would renounce his friendship with her. Even if he agrees to continue his friendship, his family will not accept her as their son's suitable wife. No family would want to have an evil son-in-law like her criminal brother. She decided to hide her brother's evils. Badriya suddenly looked at her watch. It is 7:15 p.m. Her heart became restless, and the question that every girl would ask in such a situation arose in her mind. Will he come after all? Then she got to her feet. Her heart started beating fast. She walked out of the room. She started walking aimlessly around the house. She stopped and looked at her watch. Again, it is 7:25 p.m. She continued walking again. Then she stopped and looked at her watch. At 7:45 p.m., she resumed her walk. She began sweating and shaking. Look again at her watch. Time is over. It is 8 p.m. Sharp. Her throat choked and her body began to shiver. She stared at her watch again. He is 75 minutes late. Badriya started crying. Tears filled her eyes. She slowly walked toward this decorated room, entered and sat on a chair. She put her hands over her face and started crying loudly. At the same time, the good citizen Walid Hamza started knocking on the outside door. The more she cried louder, her new lover knocked on her outer door harder. Then Walid stopped knocking, looked at his watch. It is 8:30 p.m. He decided to walk down the street and back again. Badriya cried until she got tired. She wiped her tears and looked at her watch. It is 8:40 p.m. He decided to go home. Look at her face in the mirror. She saw her tears had ruined all her makeup. Anyway, it didn't bother her anymore. She turned off the lights and walked toward the outer door. When she reached the door, she angrily opened it and walked straight into her lover's arms. When Badriya realized she was embracing Walid on the street, she pulled him inside and closed the door. Again, they hugged each other. This time, it is a very long hug. All her tears, fears, and disappointment disappeared, and in their place, love, joy, and hope arose. Her lover pulled his hands from her waist and brought them to her cheeks. He saw her face full of joy. Her eyes are also full of love. She is hot and gorgeous. Wally said, it is a beautiful coincidence. Tonight, that there will be a full moon in the middle of the sky. Badriya said, yes, let us go into the room. I would like to sit with you under the bright moonlight and see your beautiful face reflect its silver rays. She became shy and looked down. Badriya, says Walid, before we go forward with our love, Can I ask you some important questions? Yes, you can. I want to ask you about your family. Badria's heart was now filled with fear. She remained silent. When I came to your house that day, I found your brother Omar very ill. May I know what happened to him? He had a car accident, but he said in the Sharia court, anyway, that he had been beaten by some of his enemies who kidnapped him at 4 a.m. in the morning from in front of the Grand Mosque. Badria's heart began to beat faster when Walid confronted her with her first lie. Do you believe what your brother told the judge in the Sharia court? Yes, I must believe my brother. However, I know exactly what happened to him. Badria wanted to speak, but her voice let her down. My dear Badria, if you want us to move forward in our love, you must be open and clear with me. The new girlfriend bowed her head and remained silent. Tears started falling from her beautiful eyes. Your brother Omar is not living properly. His crime is not small. It is a crime punishable by death. He ruined the life of an innocent girl. If he is not punished or deterred, he will continue to destroy the life of other innocent girls. Badria started crying loudly. Walid waited a while and continued talking. I'm the one who reported the heinous crime of kidnapping and rape your brother committed with the Munastar al-Wihsh gang to the police authority. Walid waited for a while and continued talking again. Now you have to choose between me and your brother. What do you want me to do? The sister of the sixth criminal, the magician, Omar asked angrily. Do you want me to betray my brother for you? I didn't say you should do that. Your brother will be handed over to the police very soon. Are you a spy or an undercover cop? I'm neither a spy nor a policeman. I'm the good citizen who reported your brother's hideous crime to the police. Why did you come to my house? Why didn't you go directly to the police and reveal my brother's hiding place? I first went to the police inspector in charge of the crime, but he turned out to be a corrupt policeman. The wealthy business tycoon, Mr. Osman Al-Taib, had bribed him and released your brother from the crime. Why did you come to my house if you knew all that? I'd come to your house to force your brother to confess his involvement in the crime of kidnapping and rape, and to obtain his confessions in writing about the crime and the bribery. Why didn't you go and hand over his confession papers to the police authority? I couldn't do that because your brother's crime was committed to an innocent person. Who is the innocent person? His name is Shakush Wad Al Haram. That ugly gorilla man is not an innocent person. He is also a criminal and was arrested recently. How did you know that? His savage gang leader, Al-Wihsh, sent him to my brother. The police arrested him near my house. Whatever he is not the sixth hiding criminal who is known as the magician. And that magician is your brother Omar. Therefore, Shakush was not one of the six criminals who kidnapped and raped the innocent girl. How did you know that the hammer Shakush was not one of the six criminals? I witnessed the whole crime, and I know who the criminals are. How can you call yourself a good citizen and go to a brothel, a local liquor bar, and a house full of cheap Sudanese whores and dirty Abyssinian sluts? Yes, I admit my mistake. I drink alcohol and sometimes commit adultery with a prostitute. But I am not a criminal like your brother and his gang members. Where are my brother's confessions? The confession papers were handed over to a lawyer. He will file a complaint against Inspector Hussein, Mr. Osman Taib, and your brother Omar. When Badriya heard this last word, she began to cry. Walid remained silent. She kept crying for a long time. She cried for her brother more than she cried for her lover. Then Walid approached her and comforted her. She laid her head on his chest and continued to cry. Badriya, I know you are a good girl. It is normal for you to grieve for a brother, but you must overcome your emotions. I promise I will never leave you. Badriya stopped crying. Walid grabbed her face in his hands and started kissing her lips. She responded and began to kiss him, too, with strong passion. When he realized that she had accepted this fact, he stopped kissing her. I'm glad you didn't cancel our new friendship. You are the first person who opened my eyes to the truth and filled my heart with love, she said to her new boyfriend. Now, Badriya, since your eyes are open to the truth, I want to ask you another question. What is your new question? Did you know that your criminal brother Omar is guilty of yet another kidnapping and rape crime? What is his other crime? His first crime was with the Bis al-Wihsh and his gang, and his second was with Sayyid Osman al-Taib and his gang. I can't understand what you mean by my brother's second offense. Omar had helped Mr. Osman al-Taib marry his half-sister Firdos without her consent, and this vile old man had justified his evil deeds through the Sharia court and also used the power of the police to kidnap her from her home and take her to him as a captive runaway wife. His work is no different from the evil deeds of the jihadi Muslim terrorists of ISIS who kidnap and rape Iraqi Yazidi girls. Most likely by now he had brutally raped her, and now he is imprisoning her somewhere in what the law called House of Obedience. This is not a crime, it's just a family problem, said Badriya. How can you call it just a family problem? They forced two innocent sisters to marry people they didn't like. Intisar and Firdos are not innocent girls, said Badriya. They are very bad girls. In fact, they spoiled my father's name. Is it a crime to fall in love? Asked Walid. But they go out with boys, go to the movie theaters, and go to parties. They even travel with their lovers to Khartoum City and stayed with them in the same hotel. I've seen pictures of them hugging and kissing those boys in public and in broad daylight. This means that they allow them to have sex with them before marriage inside the hotel rooms. Do you still call them decent, moral girls? I have known Intisar and Firdos for many years. I've never seen them travel with bad guys. They have boyfriends, and they both want to marry their lovers. But why did they allow those bad boys to kiss them in public? Now you love me, and you allowed me to kiss you. Neither our love nor our kissing is a shameful act. Am I right, Badriya? Yes, you are absolutely right. How did you get to know my sisters, Intisar and Firdos and Farida? I live near their house. But those sisters and their mother Sarah have long been our bitter enemies. They are not your enemies. They are good girls. Omar and his second gang have abused them and done them a lot of evils. I know the choice is hard for you. Since childhood, you have been told that they are your enemies because their mother is a rival wife to your mother due to polygamy. That is why you did not hesitate to go with your mother Sakina to the evil witch doctor Haj Muhammad and paid him money to spoil the friendship of Intisar and Sami. When Walid confronted Farida with the second truth, she burst into tears again. He waited for her to cry out in pain that disturbed her conscience. Now is the time for you to repent of what you have done and go and ask your sisters for forgiveness. Do you think they will forgive me? Yes, they will forgive you. Believe me, Walid, I never felt that what I did to them was wrong until you opened my eyes to the truth today. So from today, wash your hands of the wicked Olma Mr. Osman Teb and his gang and take the side of your innocent sisters. The gang meets at our house as we chat now. What is the purpose of their meeting? I don't know exactly, but it is probably about the marriages of Firdos and Intisar. If you want to prove to me that you have completely repented and departed from your all wrong ways, then find out what they are gathered for and come and tell me. I'll do that for you. I'll meet you tomorrow at 10 in the morning at Intisar's house. Agreed, my love. After that, the handsome lover took his beautiful, beloved face in his hands and looked into her eyes. He saw the many tears have cleansed her mind of all malice and bitterness. He could also see how his love filled her heart. So he started kissing her in the lips. She responded to him with a new passion. During that wonderful time, the new lovers spent a lot of time hugging and kissing, and the evil Muslim girl turned into an angelic girl whose heart and mind are filled with new waves of true repentance and love. Chapter 23. The emergency meeting of the second gang of valiants. Mr. Osman al-Taib arrived at Umar's house at a few hours before the scheduled time for the important emergency meeting. He is accompanied by the beautiful nurse Ms. Zakiya Karamallah, whom he introduced as his personal secretary. The nurse informed family members that her boss suffers from cheilitis caused by a pea stink and that she is acting as his mouthpiece. Through her, the old man had a confidential discussion with the guardian of his first wife, Firdos. He also made a phone call to Inspector Hussein and asked him to at least attend the important emergency meeting without participating in it. The police inspector vehemently refused to accept the request, but agreed to come an hour after the meeting ended. The evil old man also suggested that all the other members should be told that Omar had been forced while someone pointing a gun to his head to include them in his confession papers. This would make them willing to take any action necessary to see those dangerous confession papers brought back and then burn it to ashes. Corrupt Police Inspector Hussein and the sixth criminal, the magician Omar, welcomed the evil old man's brilliant idea. Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilal was several minutes late. The main excuse for his delay is that he can't miss a TV serial that ended at 8:45 p.m. Mr. Osman al-Taib considered his excuse absurd and showed how irresponsible he is as a politician. At 8:50 p.m., they received a phone call from the Imam of the Grand Mosque, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk. He also apologized for this inevitable delay due to the evening prayer. He said, as the main Imam, he could not avoid it, but had to lead the congregation in the last prayer of the day. He also told them that he had just finished the evening prayer of Al-Isha and that he would soon be with them. With these delays in mind, Mr. Osman al-Taib officially announced the postponement of their emergency meeting to 9 p.m. However, Maulana reached home at 9:20 p.m. He said his further delay was due to the heavy traffic. 20 minutes later, Inspector Hussein arrived. He regretted that he came before the emergency meeting ended and was about to withdraw if Mr. Osman Taib did not swear to divorce his new wife, the 15-year-old teenage girl Firdaus, if the police inspector left. To avoid the divorce of the new, lovely underage bride, the corrupt police inspector was forced to attend the conspirators' meeting. When everyone came except the man of clean business, the witch doctor Haj Muhammad, Mr. Osman Taib looked at his watch, which indicated 9:40 in the evening. He concluded that the great wizard, the grand wizard Haj Muhammad, either had an accident and died instantly, had a heart attack, or a thief broke into his house and killed him, or a madman stabbed him to death, or a rival lover, strangled his neck to death, or the police arrested him, or for a reason that only God knows. So he pointed with his hand to the blessed Maulana Sheikh Marzouk to start the important meeting by reciting some verses from the Holy Quran. The Imam recited the shortest surah he knew. After that, Mr. Osman Taib wrote a small note and handed it to his lovely secretary. The nurse Zakia took the paper, changed her seat, and sat down beside the old man. Then she cleared her throat as she was about to read the opening words of the important emergency meeting, but stopped when she heard a heavy knock on the outside door. She looked at her boss, who signaled to her to hold on. Someone, most likely is Omar's mother, opened the outer door. Immediately, the gathered villains heard a loud voice of the mighty witch doctor Haj Muhammad saluting the mother, Haj Sakina. Seconds later, the man of clean business introduced himself among the conspirators. With a big smile on his face, he said, "Please, my friends, forgive me for being late. It is not my fault, nor anyone else's fault here." When he saw that every face was looking at him angrily, he sat down and continued his words. "Please, guys, first listen to my story, and then everyone could judge it. I finished with the last visitor at 7:30 p.m., half an hour before the usual closing time. Then I ran to the bathroom and took a quick shower. I got myself ready to leave my holy abode by 7:50 p.m. I took my car keys and walked to the outside door. As I was approaching the outer door, I hear a soft knocking on it. I opened the door and looked outside. To my surprise, I saw the two richest and most beautiful teenage girls I had ever seen in my life. One was 15 years old, just like the beautiful new bride of Sayyid Osman al-Taib, and of course, still underage child and a virgin. And the other girl was a teenager of 17, like the very beautiful bride of Hassan ibn Sayyid Mahjub al-Hilali. And she is too, most probably a virgin girl. The 15-year-old girl's eyes filled with tears. She was adorned with gold and jewels from the top of her head to the soles of her feet. She was wearing expensive clothes and shoes just like a princess in Disneyland or a virgin descended from paradise. Her tender body diffuses pleasant foreign fragrances like those that come from India and Europe. Massages and liqueurs like new virgin Sudanese pride deck it out for her honeymoon with her handsome groom in a five-star hotel in the capital city. You know, my friends, I could not see a teenage girl cry, and my compassionate heart wouldn't cry with her. Therefore, I put my hands on her soft cheeks and wiped her tears. But more tears were falling like mid-autumn rain on her apple-like cheeks. So my tender heart wept with her the most. Then her friend, who was not inferior to her in beauty and richness, said to me, with her sweet voice that resembled the voice of the nightingale or a cuckoo bird, Haj Muhammad, please have mercy on Jamila. Her life or a days in your hands. I asked her, my daughter, can you bring your girlfriend tomorrow morning? I promise I will receive her as the first visitor. I'm on my way to an emergency meeting with very important people in this city. I can't postpone or cancel my visit. I'm a man of clean business, and also I'm a man of good principles. One of my principles is keeping promise. When I said that, Jamila fell to my feet and watered them with her tears. My heart melted inside of me. I knelt down and lifted her body off the ground. I looked at her lovely face and I saw the pain and sadness in her beautiful eyes. Then she said to me in her feminine voice, which was like an angelic voice or a piece of nurturing, it is better to kill me than to leave me in such pain. Those words touched my heart, and yet I reminded myself that I am a man, and when a man makes a promise, he must keep his words. I told her, my little princess, I know you have great grief, but I also have an important appointment. Then her friend told me, Haj Muhammad, take us with you in your car. I know how to drive. I will drive your car. Sit in the back seat with Jamila and listen to her problem. She will say it in your in a whisper because she doesn't want anyone else to know it. I told her, my love, I'm a famous man. On every street and corner in this large city, I have friends and foes. What will they say when they see a sweet girl like you driving me in the back seat? And in the back seat, the most beautiful girl I have ever seen whispering in my ear. When I said that, Jamila fell back to my feet and started crying loudly. If I left her in such agony and she went and killed herself, I said to myself, I would spend the rest of my decent, morally pure life with a troubled conscience. So I took her by the waist and lifted her up like a groom carrying his bride on their first wedding night. When I told her that I would solve her problem, she put her arms around my body and hugged me. She refused to remove them. I asked her friend to persuade her to remove her hands. Her friend tried, but Jamila refused to listen to her either. She told me, I think she feels safe in your embrace. So I flattered to put my arms around the pretty girl and hug her too. Then I led her to my private room and closed the door behind us. Meanwhile, her friend was sitting in the waiting room alone because Jamila did not want anyone to know about her problem except me and God alone. We sat together on a large mattress. When we are alone, she opened her mouth and started telling me her problem. The words came out of her mouth and entered my ears like soft music. We spent an hour together in a heart-to-heart talk, but all this time, Jamila did not take her hands off my waist and did not allow me to do so. When we finished, her face started to shine like the face of an angel. Then she said to me, Haj Muhammad, I will divest myself of all the gold and jewels and that I'm wearing and give them to you. Even if you want my beautiful eyes and sexy body to be yours, I won't tell you no. I told her, don't do this now. There is time for all this. Immediately I apologized, left them at my house, and rushed over here. The virtuous Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, who cares more about the story than the other conspirators, said to Haj Muhammad, please explain to us the problem of that young, beautiful, wealthy teenage girl who is a virgin, as you claim, and how she took an hour of your precious time. Before the witch doctor answered the blessed Imam, they heard heavy knocking on the outer door. The mother opened the door. The assembled members waited to see who was running late. When no one appeared, Omar shouted at his mother and asked her about the new visitors. The mother, Sakina, replied, this is your sister Badriya. She just got back from her blind grandmother's house. At the same time, the wall clock struck 10 times, indicating that it is 10 o'clock at night. Hajja Sakina scolded her daughter Badriya for being so late. After that, she ordered her to go and stand by the back window and listen to the conversation of the visitors. And after that, she should come and report to her what they had said. The mother used to do this chore before her daughter came, but she felt relief from that difficult task. Badriya, who drank some water, snatched a large sandwich from the hands of the Eritrean maid servant Dahra and ran to the window, substituting her for her mother on the next night shift of spying. With her mouth busy chewing the big sandwich, she put her ears as close as possible to hear the conspirators' conversation. From her position, she can hear every word spoken but cannot see the speaker. Also, none of them can see her or know that she is spying on them. As her ears became attentive to their conversation, she heard a soft and sweet young woman's voice speaking in this way. First of all, the young woman shouted in her sweet voice, you must know the reason for our emergency meeting. The matter we are going to discuss tonight and find a proper solution for it is so urgent that it compels me to stop my honeymoon and leave my sweet and sexy wife alone in the hotel and rush here. Badriya was stunned when she heard that the woman claimed to have a beautiful and sexy wife. How can she have a sweet wife and go on a honeymoon with her? No possible answer to such a strange claim could be found by Badriya's bewildered mind. My wife was very angry with me, the female voice continued, and told me she would rather prefer to be divorced than be left alone in the hotel during her honeymoon. Badriya is now fully convinced that the speaker is a woman who married another woman and went with her for honeymoon. However, her mind strongly rejected such a possibility because she knew that same-sex marriage had not yet been legalized in Sudan, and it might never be. Although it happened, I took a risk and left my sweet wife alone in the hotel and came here. I expected you all to come here on time, but unfortunately none of you showed up on time. I told Omar on the phone to tell everyone that the meeting is very urgent and very important and should start at 8 p.m. sharp. It is a matter of life and death for all of us. I had planned to report to the meeting in Gadaref city and be back in Khartoum city by 11:30 p.m. My new bride had warned me sternly that if the sun came up and she did not find me by her side, she would either force me to divorce her or she would never let me sleep with her again in the same bed. I booked a return ticket for the midnight flight to the capital city. Badria listens intently to the woman's voice and in her mind tries to imagine what she would look like with her wife in bed. Then there was a silence for 3 minutes. Badria wondered what had happened. Yet again she heard the woman's voice breaking the silence. This time the sound rose 5 times louder than before. The angry woman exclaimed, "Look at your watch. According to my watch, it is 10:15 p.m. This important meeting was supposed to start at 8 p.m. sharp. I just feel like getting up, canceling the meeting, going on my flight, going back to my beloved wife, and then letting each and every one of you go to jail tomorrow." Another 2 minutes of silence followed. Then the woman's voice continued to speak. "One of you said he came in late because he watched a TV series. Another person had to perform evening prayers in the largest mosque. Yet another one came 2 hours late because two beautiful teenage girls had captured his heart. All of these are ridiculous excuses and just show how irresponsible you guys are. One of you calls himself a political leader. Another is a religious leader. Another claims is that he is a social counselor. You are the people who are supposed to lead the country into the future. If you cannot show responsibility in such a small meeting, what will you do when you go to the parliament in the capital city? There, there are more minutes of silence followed. Badriya quickly marked the words on one finger. On the one hand, she counted the positions, and on the other hand, the names. Right hand, left hand. Political leader, Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali. Religious leader, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk. Social counselor, Haj Muhammad. Her matching result revealed that the most important conspirator is missing. Therefore, she concluded that the woman's sweet voice must be the voice of Mr. Osman al-Tayyib. But her mind immediately rejected such impossible possibility. How could this gentle female voice be the harsh voice of the arrogant old geezer? The woman's voice interrupted her mind again. Why should I bother about the future of the country when the citizens themselves put you in such important positions? 2 more minutes of silence followed those words. Those minutes of rest created another mystery in Badria's mind. Why does the sweet feminine voice every now and then have to stop talking for a few minutes? No possible answer to this question was found either. Then the gentle female voice broke the silence again. Now let us go back to our emergency meeting. As my dear brother-in-law, Omar, informed you all, this is a crucial time for all of us. The issue we are about to discuss is very important to everyone present here. As I mentioned before, our whole lives are at stake. It is not only our lives in danger, but also a matter of our names in society. Those wicked and adulterous boys and girls, when they saw that we had defeated them in the Sharia court, resorted to extortion. They sent a young man named Walid Hamza, who was no less evil and deceitful than them. Badriya felt as if a sharp knife had pierced her heart when she heard her new boyfriend being cursed by the woman who claimed to have married another woman. This evil person came here 2 days ago and claimed to be the good citizen who directed Inspector Hussein the Great and his brave cops to the recent crime of kidnapping and rape committed against the innocent girl. So Omar was forced to write two confession papers. In the first paper, he confessed his involvement in the hideous crime. In the second paper, he indicated that he was arrested and released by Inspector Hussein because of the large bribe that was paid jointly with Mr. Osman Al Taib, Mr. Mahjoub Al Hilali, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, and Haj Muhammad. When the woman said these words, Badriya heard the surprised voice of many men in the room. Many heard voices shouting insults and obscene words. First, she heard Maulana Sheikh Marzouk shouting at the top of his voice and saying the curse of God and his angels and all people be on him and on his family. Then she heard the man of clean business, Haj Muhammad, say in a loud voice, "This son of a bitch, I will send my powerful demons and make him run through the streets naked." Suddenly there was a complete silence when Badriya heard a strong blow on the table. The beating was followed by another powerful blow. Soon after, she heard the woman's musical voice shouting angrily, "Cowards! Stop it! We are all involved in this serious problem. We must either solve it or go to jail together." Another silence followed. Badriya has her doubts again. How could a woman have this physical strength that enabled her to hit the table with such masculine power? No answer to her question was found. This evil blackmailer, Walid Hamza, has two requirements. He demands 10 billion Sudanese pounds in cash and Omar's sister. "Excuse me, sir," Maulana voice says that he wants Omar's sister as a wife, slave girl, or a maid. The woman sarcastically says, "You are our imam for more than 50 years, and you still don't understand why a man desires a woman? In order to satisfy these three needs, the male desires the female." Badriya was disturbed when she heard the misogynistic attitudes that came from another female. "I don't care what the blackmailer does to the girl Badriya. This is his demand and we have to fulfill it or we will go to jail. When we give her to him, it is up to him to marry her, to enslave her, to make her his maidservant, or even to rape her to death. I'm ready to pay the amount," and Umar agreed to hand over his sister to Walid Hamza. "Now remaining three of you guys must go tomorrow and meet these adulterers and whores and settle the deal with them." "What do we do if they refuse to hand over the confession papers of Umar?" asked the voice of Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali. "Inspector Hussein the Great will accompany you and will show those bad boys and immoral girls some official papers issued by Sharia court judge Maulana Abdul Mohsen Taha. According to those papers, he will force the wife and Tisar to follow him to the house of her husband, Mr. Hassan Mahjoub al-Hilali. When we have her in our hands, we can threaten them to hand over Omar confession papers or we will gang rape her, kill her, and burn her dead corpse into ashes. Are you serious about your threat?" Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali asked again. "Yes, of course, I'm serious. Or do you want us to go to jail? Please, friends, do not include me in such an evil plot. I'm well known as a man of clean business. How can I deliver a girl to be raped and then killed?" said the voice of Haj Muhammad. "I too would like to be excluded from this evil plot." said the voice of Maulana Sheikh Marzouk. I do not think it is wise to do what Mr. Osman al-Taib suggested, said the politician's voice. I have a good idea, Haj Muhammad suggests. We should cancel the two marriages contract that we did with Intisar and Firdos. Then we have to release the imprisoned bride of Mr. Osman al-Taib. The notorious womanizer Haj Muhammad made the above proposal because he remembered his promise to Prince Siham. Farida lied to him and told him her name was Siham. Moreover, the pilgrim knows that he can lose nothing. In response to his suggestion, Badriya heard a severe beating on the table, which made her jump out of her hiding place. It also led to a sudden silence within the room. This time the silence extended to 5 minutes. Badriya thought that the evil conspirators had fled in fear and left the angry woman alone. Her thought was proven wrong when she suddenly heard the woman's sweet voice shouting loudly, scolding, and cursing everyone, using extremely dirty words. Shut up, you cowardly and damned men. I'll fuck you and beat you all if you try to pull yourselves back. Badri is shocked when she heard the woman say that she will have sex with everyone in the room as punishment for his fear. Doesn't she already have another wife that she claimed to enjoy honeymooning with her? Since she has a gay marriage with another woman, why does she want a man to fuck her? Before she can find an answer to her wonder, a sweet voice resumed its threat. I swear by God Almighty and the divorce of my 3 wives that I will not release my fourth wife, Firdos. No amount of intimidation could force me to break up with her. She is my lawful wife, number 4, and as long as I live, she will remain in my robes. Even if I have to spend the rest of my life in prison, she will still be my wife. How do I allow another man to sleep with my wife? Answer me. Would you allow one of your wives to spend 5 minutes alone with another man? We seek refuge in God from the work of Satan, said the voice of Maulana, Sheikh Marzouk. How can we allow that? Our Holy Prophet Muhammad himself would not allow this to happen to one of his 13 wives, because he said, no man and woman can isolate themselves without Satan being their third partner. May Allah bless you, Maulana, for reminding us of this important prophetic hadith. Accordingly, you must listen carefully to this plan. The woman communicates her words in more angry voice. No suggestion, objection, or a change is allowed. It should be implemented as I plan it. These are 3 checks issued in the names of Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, Haj Muhammad Abubakar Mursal, and Said Mahjoub al-Hilali. The total amount is 10 billion pounds. Tomorrow, by 8:30 a.m., the bank will open. After withdrawing the money from the bank in cash, you should come here, including Police Inspector Hussein, and add the girl Badriya from her mother Sakina. I need some explanation, says Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali. How we will convince the mother to allow her daughter to accompany us to a stranger she does not know or she has not even seen before? Who asked you to convince the mother or her daughter? What you have to do is show them both a verdict of obedience against a disobedient Muslim wife issued by the Sharia court judge Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha. Where does this verdict of obedience come from? Maulana Sheikh Marzouk asked. You don't have to bother with the source of this document now. I will arrange it myself. The important thing now is to give the girl Badriya in a permissible halal Islamic marriage with the blackmailer Walid Hamza, because this is one of his demand and he want her as a Muslim wife. Where is that damning fucking boy now? Haj Muhammad asked. Inspector Hussein can sign for him. We have Maulana Imam Al-Jami Al-Kabir as a recognized Mazun of marriages. The wali of Badriya, her guardian brother, Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, and the two witnesses, Haj Muhammad and Sayyid Mahjoub Al-Hilali. What is missing then? How to do this without considering the girl's reaction or even her mother's objection, says Mr. Mahjoub Al-Hilali. Excuse me, sir, says the woman's voice sarcastically. Why didn't you think about the reaction of that girl Intisar and her mother's objection when I agreed to conduct her marriage contract for your son Hassan without her consent and presence? Badriya listens with great astonishment to the fabrication of a third evil scheme of marriage. She understood that she is the victim of the new plot. Now she can feel what her sisters, Intisar and Firdos, felt when they learned that they got married to men without their consent or presence. After that, there was a silence for 15 minutes. During that period, she learned that she had married Walid. She loved the idea, but hated the way she got married. She understood that she was no longer a free girl, but a married woman. So she started laughing and crying at the same time. With this mixture of contradictory, ambivalent feelings of anger and joy, she left her hiding place, walked to her room, closed her door behind her, and fell into an uncomfortable sleep full of sweet dreams and frightening nightmares. Chapter 24. A visit to the local newspaper in Gadaref city. Badriya slept very badly that night because of some terrifying nightmares she had in her many scary dreams. In her first dream, she saw that she had been kidnapped by ugly creatures with human bodies and animal faces. In her second dream, she saw the evil old man, Mr. Osman al-Tayyib, and the gorilla man, the Hamar Shakush Wad al-Haram, attacking her and tearing her clothes until she was completely naked. Then they began gang raping her. She rose from her sleep, crying out loudly for help. In her third dream, she saw her entire house burning and all the conspirators burning alive, including her mother Hajja Sakina and the maid servant Zahra and her criminal brother Omar. She escaped alone by jumping through a wall. When she got up for the third time, she decided not to sleep again. Her watch showed 4:30 a.m. Those bad dreams revealed to her the troubled state of her mind. She had never expected that her brother Omar would plot such an evil plot against her. He was the one she thought would give her life for her. But she found out last night that he didn't mind if Walid Hamza used her as a slave, maid servant, wife, or even rape her to death. She understood that Omar's only goal in life was to get money, drink alcohol, and use other girls to satisfy his selfish lust. She imagined that Inspector Hussein and the three other conspirators had dragged her out of her house by force and took her to the house of obedience of her Muslim husband. She can see her mother screaming and herself begging for mercy, but none of them will heed their tears. Their main concern is to protect themselves from going to jail and being punished for their heinous crimes. Then her imagination brought to her the difficult situation of her half-sister, Firdaus, when she was forcibly dragged from her home by 5 policemen. She can see her bleeding, kicking, struggling to free herself from the 5 cups. Badriya began to feel the unbearable torture her younger sister had been subjected to. Moreover, Badriya began to feel the unbearable torture her younger sister, Firdaus, had been subjected to. Moreover, she could now feel the painful experience her innocent sister had when the old man brutally raped her. So she started crying and saying, "Please forgive me, Firdaus." She cried until the first rays of the sun began to shine on the horizon. When she looked at her watch, again she realized it was 6:15 a.m. She decided to leave the house before these evil men come and force her out of her house. She decided to go and hide at her grandmother's house until 9:30 a.m. From there, she will go to Intisar's house, where her beloved boyfriend Walid and his friends are waiting for her. She got out of her bed and took a quick shower. After that, she put on her clothes and ran away from her house as if to escape from her kidnappers and rapists. Sami and Salah are the first two friends to arrive at the house. They carry with them newspapers of the two papers of Umar confession, the recorded confession of Hajj Muhammad, and that day's local newspapers. Their faces revealed to the two sisters that they had important news. Intisar and Farida stood up and greeted them. "What is new about it?" the two sisters asked in unison. Yesterday evening, a journalist interviewed the innocent girl about the arrest of Shakush and his master, Al-Wihsh. She had expressed her astonishment at the description of Shakush in the newspapers. She said the person whom the newspaper described as ugly as a gorilla could not have been her rapist, the magician. According to her, the sorcerer is the most handsome man among her kidnappers and rapists. Thus, she expressed her suspicion of the person who was arrested by Inspector Hussein. Salah then says that, of course, this will help us expose the cover-up story. In this case, we must meet the innocent girl herself and tell her about the cover-up story that the police inspector Hussein fabricated to hide his involvement in the heinous crimes, says Intisar. Salah answered, "This is what we'll do today." And when Salah agreed to Intisar's proposal, Walid Hamza entered. Sami recounted to him the journalist's interview with the innocent girl and their plan to meet the girl in question. After that, Walid told them about the outcome of his meeting with his new girlfriend. Then the friends waited for Badriya, who came a few minutes late. Who came a few minutes after Walid's arrival. Through her, they learned about the minutes of the emergency meeting of the conspirators. They were surprised when she told them that the meeting was chaired by a young woman who claimed to be married to another woman. But Salah guessed that the woman might be Mr. Osman al-Taib's secretary and spoke on his behalf. He first guessed that Mr. Osman al-Taib was present, but he might not be able to speak out loud because he had lost his voice. All others agreed with the wise logic of the clever lawyer Salah. After Badriya recounted all the details of the emergency meeting, the friends decided to move quickly. Salah and Walid immediately left the house and headed to the Gadarif Times headquarters. They decided to meet the journalist who interviewed the innocent girl and asked for his help to contact her. The Gadarif Times is the city's oldest and most widely read newspaper. It has hundreds of staff of journalists and other workers. Besides, many people come to the building every day to place an article, advertise a commodity, or a search for a missing relative or a kidnapped girl. Another group of visitors comes there with newspaper in hand to file a complaint against a journalist who has written a false allegation against them. Naturally, the second group of visitors would not be well received by the staff. Therefore, if an employee sees a visitor with a newspaper in his hands, he is either avoided or pushed out of the office. Salah and Walid were unaware of this habit of journalists and then walk around holding newspapers in their hands. Therefore, in the first office and in the second office, the doors were closed in their faces. In the third and fourth offices, they were literally pushed out of the doors. Before they entered the fifth office, a security guard approached them and explained their mistake. After this wise advice, the friends were welcomed into the fifth office. A young woman stopped writing and said, smiling, "How can I help you, gentlemen? We are looking for a journalist named Shams al-Din." Salah said, smiling, "Why would you want him?" Another man replies in an angry voice. Salah said, "You want to talk to him personally? I know that, but what do you want him for?" Said the same man again. "It is a private and confidential talk. You have come to the wrong place and to the wrong person. We journalists hate words like personal and confidential for only the wicked, like thieves, adulterers, and murderers. Murderers love privacy. Say we are not of those evil men. We are good citizens. Then tell me, what is your business with Shamsuddin? I'm not sure if he would like us to reveal it to others or not, but I don't mind telling you. Is it kind of too secretive? Yes, it is. But sooner or later, everyone will know it. Go find him in room number 3. We went to that room, but someone pushed us out. Go and tell that person Mr. Shakir Ibrahim has given us permission to come and see Shams al-Din." Salah and Walid went back to room number 3 and told the person who kicked them out they had the permission of Mr. Shakir Ibrahim. The man accepted the recommendation and let them in. Inside the office, many journalists are busy writing and typing. The two friends approached the first table and inquired about Shamsuddin. "Do you have an appointment with him?" asked a journalist. "No, sir," said Salah. "He is not here at the moment." "Where did he go, sir?" Salah asked. "He is probably out in the field covering some action. Sir, our matter is very urgent and cannot be postponed. I'm sorry, I can't help you." "Can we meet the general editor?" "Do you have an appointment with him?" "No, sir." "Then don't try. In this case, the culprit escaped tonight, and Shamsuddin loses the best chance of his life. What do you think of Shamsuddin? Of course, he's not a cop to catch criminals for you. He's just a journalist. But when the police inspector released the real culprit and arrested another man instead of him, and Shamsuddin has some clues about that, he will be more helpful than the police." "What crime are you talking about?" "The crime of kidnapping and raping an innocent girl, which committed recently in this city." Once Salah revealed the purpose of their visit, the man rose to his feet and shouted loudly, Mr. Tariq Shamsuddin Haddad, you have very important visitors. In the other corner of the spacious office, a man answered the call. Then he came quickly and introduced himself before the two friends. He is a tall, handsome young man with a smiling face. I'm Shamsuddin. Is there anything I can do for you, gentlemen? Said the journalist. Salah said, yes, sir. But is there a private place where we can discuss a secret matter related to the mysterious criminal called the magician? Yes, of course, there is, Shamsuddin said. Please come with me to the interview room. Salah and Walid silently followed the journalist Shamsuddin into the interview room. When they sat down, he took out his pen and notebook and looked at them expectantly. But, sir, before I tell you of our discovery of the magician's concealment, let me introduce you to the good citizen who directed the police to the crime scene. Are you really the good citizen who exposed the heinous crime and reported to the police? Shouted Shamsuddin eagerly. Yes, I am, sir. Walid replied. Your sudden arrival will add a new sense to the crime and solve some of the mystery that has so far clouded it. Now let let me tell you about the evil criminal who was dubbed by his gang the magician, said Walid Hamza. As the innocent girl mentioned yesterday in her conversation with you, which came in the newspaper, the sorcerer is the most handsome man among her kidnappers and rapists. She is absolutely correct in that report. He and his accomplices were arrested and taken to jail. However, Police Inspector Hussein released him due to a huge financial bribe paid to him by his brother-in-law, Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib. That richest man in our town, wrote and signed a blank check and asked the corrupt police inspector to put any amount of money he would like to have. For this reason, the magician was acquitted of the heinous crime and released on the same day he was arrested. Journalist Shamsuddin asked, do you have any evidence for that? Salah said, yes, we have. Then he opened his handbag and took out the two confession papers that were written and then signed by the criminal Umar. The journalist took the confession papers and looked at them and read them. These papers are enough evidence to send Inspector Hussein and Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib behind bars. But how do you prove that the magician wrote them? The name here says Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. Besides, Inspector Hussein had already found a scapegoat and laid upon him the magician's crime. Salah explained that the innocent girl can prove that her kidnapper and rapist, the magician, is still at large, and that the man who was arrested by Inspector Hussein was not among her kidnappers and rapists. And how do you prove that? Because the arrested person, Shakush Al Haram, has already confessed his involvement in the crime. Shakush's arrest was just a cover-up story fabricated by Inspector Hussein. He did this because he wanted to hide his corruption and the large bribe he received from the rich man, said Osman Tayyib. Therefore, confession of Shakush is taken by force. The innocent girl can reveal it when she sees the magician face to face. Where is the magician hiding, and how can the innocent girl face such a dangerous person? Sir will explain to you the details of our plan on our way. The important thing now is to act quickly before the criminals find another way to escape. What do you want me to do? First of all, please take us to the home of the innocent girl who was kidnapped and raped by the monster Al-Wahsh and his 5 evil men. Yes, I will take you guys right away to her house. Please, you two good citizens, come with me to my car. Chapter 25. The Tragedy of the First Innocent Girl. The first kidnapped and raped innocent girl named Muna Salahuddin. As Omar told Shakush, she is a very beautiful girl and has an exceptionally sexy body. Being a beautiful is not a crime because beauty is a physical virtue and a blessing from God. Unfortunately for Muna, her beauty has been spoiled by evil men who kidnap and rape her. She was a virgin before these monsters kidnapped her and took her to their satanic ringleader, where he defiled her honor and took away her virginity. Now her name has been conflated with the crime of shame. In Indian society, a rape victim is expected to kill herself. But in Sudanese society, the rape victim will be treated as an urban girl. This means that she has lost her virginity and has an urban pussy. Every man will want to have sex with her, but none of them will agree to marry her. This is how society understood the heinous crime committed against the fairest innocent girl, Mona. No young man would marry a girl who had been subjected to such brutal gang rape. Although everyone referred to her as the innocent girl, in the corner of his mind, he pictured her as a spoiled flower and her beauty tarnished. She was like a rose plucked by the wrong hands. Although she remained for a short time in those filthy hands, they made her stink of dirt and shame and turned her into a rotten apple. On that day, Muna was lying in her bed, holding a copy of the Gaddafi Times newspaper. She read her recent interview with the famous journalist Tariq Shamsuddin Haddad several times. She began to think of her sad story. Her mind is clouded with many dark thoughts. She knows before her rape she was young, beautiful, and virgin, and many young men wanted to marry her. But today she saw herself as a beautiful teenage girl who had a fatal accident that left her legs and hands mutilated, mutated and her eyes blinded. Who would marry such a completely disfigured and disabled girl? People would only pity her. Mona hated the six criminals who brutally gang raped her and destroyed her life permanently. She wishes she died on that Black Friday when she was brutally raped all day and night. She had always cursed her ravishing beauty and sexy body, which attracted those evil men to her. She also wishes that she had been born as a blind, deaf, dumb, and ugly girl. The innocent girl Muna was taught from childhood by her conservative parents that love between a girl and a boy before marriage is evil. She was told many times that love would make a girl fall into disgrace. She was made believe that many girls had lost their purity and virginity and brought shame on their families because they fell in love with boys before marriage and had sex with them. So Mona removed herself from the reach of many young men who tried to win her heart. She was recently engaged to her cousin Kamal. He is supposed to marry her within a few months after she completes the 10th grade. Unfortunately, her fiance changed his mind and was no longer ready to marry her after learning about the rape. He officially broke off their engagement. He considered his cousin Muna an irresponsible girl. How could she agree to sit in a car with five men she didn't know? Why did she stay silent, not scream for help when they kidnapped her? Mona tried to explain to him that they took her by force in their car and did not give her a chance to scream for help because they closed her mouth. But Kamal did not believe her. She knew and understood that in her condition only an old man with many wives would marry her. Only such a polygamous older could agree to marry her. So she wishes to remain unmarried her whole life rather than marry an old geezer. The innocent girl Mona thought of committing suicide, but the fear of going to hell filled her heart. As a Muslim girl, she was taught at home and in school that anyone who commits suicide will go to hell. She knew that her parents were eager to get rid of her as soon as they found someone willing to marry her. Therefore, the fairest elder to come would be welcome. Moreover, Mona wished that she could erase those dark memories from her mind. Her mind always remembers that traumatic experience by day, at night, reproduces it as a horrible nightmare. She remembered how she begged for mercy in front of her rapist. She fell to his feet and kissed them. She told him to consider her as his daughter. She did everything to move his heart, but he was a man with a stone heart. He did not pay attention to her screams. He tore her clothes into small pieces. He twisted her hands and, and put them back behind her back until he forced her to fall. After forcing her to fall to her knees, he fell on her delicate body and crushed it with his heavy weight. She was like easy prey or a wild deer that had fallen into the claws of a voracious beast. His long nails scratched her face, neck, shoulders, and breast. He pulled her hair by force and hit her body. She became a helpless victim in the hands of a human beast. He was a sadistic man who enjoyed sex by torturing his helpless victim. Puno hated to remember what he did to her after that, taking away her virginity and defiling her purity. She felt that she had become repeatedly raped by the monster man. When her six kidnappers brutally gang raped her, she wished they had tossed her in kerosene and set her body on fire. They continued to rape her and abuse her body all day and night. During those difficult hours, the innocent girl wished that the roof would fall and kill her along with her rapist. As Muna recalled those difficult hours, she heard the doorbell ring. Her mother opened the door. A few seconds later, she saw three young men approaching her. Among them, she recognized the man who recently interviewed her. From the smile on his face, she understood that he was going to reveal some new news about the crime. Muna, I have a pleasant surprise for you. Meet the brave man who saved your life. The man who saved my life, Mona said strangely. What is left of my life to be saved by someone? I meant to say this is the good citizen who notified the police and directed them to the crime scene. Mona turned to Walid Hamza and said angrily, you have done me more harm than the six evil criminals. If it wasn't for you, I would have died on that Black Friday, and no one would have known about my shame. My rapist would have burned my body and buried somewhere in the wilderness. But now I would suffer for I would have suffered for a few hours and die, but because of you, I will suffer for the rest of my life. Mona stopped talking and burst in tears. Her mother also started crying loudly. The two friends, Salah and Walid, bowed their heads as tears streamed down their cheeks. Then the reporter approached her ears and whispered, Have you forgotten what I told you last night? Shamsuddin said. Please, dear Muna, think of the future and forget about the past. Muna said while crying bitterly, I have no future. I have lost all hope in life. My life is like glass that has fallen on rocks and shattered into small pieces. Even God cannot make me happy again. My life ended on that damning Friday. Salah says calmly, You are wrong, Miss Muna. You condemn yourself for a crime you did not commit. The innocent girl looked at Salah with tear-filled eyes. At least society and the law have condemned your kidnappers and rapists. Salah continued sadly. When he saw everyone looking at him, he continued to speak loudly. But my fiancés, kidnappers, and abusers are protected by the law, and her rapist is justified by society and religion. Like you, she was kidnapped by 5 men and forcibly taken to an old man who claimed to be her husband. Imagine a 15-year-old girl who's forced to marry a 70-year-old man. Now tell me, Muna, who's supposed to lose hope in life? You or my fiancé, Firdaus? Muna did not answer Salah's question, but she continued to look at him. Miss Muna, believe me, you have not reached the end of your life. You are still young, beautiful, and with a future. Study hard. Forget the past. When you enter the university, you'll find young men of your age with open minds. Among them, I am sure you'll find your life partner who will make you forget your past. Together, you can plan your bright future. When Salah spoke these encouraging words, a faint smile appeared on the innocent girl's lips. The lawyer Salah resumed his talk. I'm supposed to give up on, on life, but I will never give up. I will wait for my fiancé Firdaus all the days of my life. Mona said to him, You are very loyal to your beloved girlfriend Firdaus. Because I love her, I'll fight every battle for her. But how do you expect the old man to release her again? She legally married him and became his lawful Muslim wife. Am I right? I do not accept it as a marriage. It was just an evil plot. We have to prove that this is not a legal marriage. It is just another vicious crime, like the one committed against you. It was also a crime of kidnapping and rape, and nothing else. The only difference is that what happened to you is a criminal case that is condemned by society and condemned by law. But what happened to my girlfriend Firdaus is a justified crime. You have been kidnapped by 5 criminals and taken to their evil ringleader, while my girlfriend has been kidnapped from her home by 5 policemen and taken to the vile old man to imprison her in his so-called house of obedience. How could the police kidnap a girl from her home? Mona asked surprisingly. The Sharia court issued a verdict of obedience against my girlfriend as a disobedient Muslim wife and sent 5 policemen to take her by force to her so-called legal husband. The Sharia court judge considered the evil plot to be a valid marriage. How do you prove that marriage is a conspiracy against you and your fiancé? Asked the fairest innocent girl, Muna. You are the only person who can help us prove it. Muna, amazed, said, How is that possible? I'm the most defeated and helpless girl on earth. You have come to the wrong person. Believe me, Miss Muna, there is no one in the whole world who can help us but you. I don't expect you to understand me until you hear the whole story from my friend Walid Hamza, the good citizen who saved you. Then Walid told Muna the whole story from the time the crime was discovered by him until he and Salah decided to seek her help. And when the good citizen finished, the innocent girl looked at the journalist Shamsuddin and said, "No wonder Inspector Hussein Hassan Hassanin does not agree with my statement about the mysterious sixth criminal, nicknamed the Magician, from the beginning." Shamsuddin said, "Yes, you are right. Now, Miss Muna," Salah said, "we want you to come with us to Omar's house and then report him to the police as the hidden criminal, one of those kidnappers and rapists who abuse you. How do you expect me to stand up to such notorious criminal? He will do anything to escape from captivity. He might harm me or kill me in some other way. You will not face him alone. You will have no less than 6 policemen fully armed and ready for any possible dangerous encounter with the magician criminal." Muna instantly said, "In this case, I'm ready to go with you guys." In the meantime, there is only 1 week left for Al Maidan police station to be transferred to Hayrwina locality. The main reason is the difference between the moral behaviors of the inhabitants of the two regions. Since the day the police station was established in the Al Maidan, 90% of the complaints were submitted by the people of Hayrwina neighborhood and 10% of the residents of Hayes Sovra neighborhood. Accordingly, the Al Maidan was considered a peaceful area. Therefore, Sergeant Muhammad Abdel Nabi is busy sorting things out as he must submit his final report to the police headquarters before the transfer takes place. Anyone who came to him, he sent him away because the police station officially ceased operation in that area. While he was busy drafting his final report, he heard a knock at the door of the police station. He stopped writing and looked up. He saw 3 young men and a beautiful girl standing at the door of his office. Since he became a police cadet 25 years ago, he had never seen such a beautiful girl come to complain. So he politely told them, "If you are looking for the kindergarten, it is on the other side. Please turn around and cross the road and you will see written the junior kindergarten in big golden letters." After that, he bowed his head and continued the course of his report. "Excuse me, sir," Muna spoke so quietly. "We have come to see you," Sergeant Abdel Nabi said impatiently. "If you are one of those boys and girls who call themselves social workers and then go to people in their offices and ask unnecessary questions, I have no time to waste with you guys. Today I'm very busy. Sir, we are neither kindergarten visitors nor social workers, but we have a complaint to make," continued Muna. "Complaint against whom? Against me or one of my men?" Salah said, "Not at all, sir. It is neither against you nor against your policemen. It is against a notorious criminal living in this area. Not today, guys. I told you today I'm very busy. Please come another day. But it is very urgent. It cannot be postponed to another day," said Miss Muna. "Go another police station. Am I the only cop in town?" "Sir," Salah said, "we offer you a golden opportunity to make yourself famous. Who told you that a policeman, by arresting a criminal, becomes famous or gets paid well? I dragged 2 or 3 criminals every day to jail, but I never became famous, even in this small area. Shamsuddin said out loud. Sir, have you heard of the famous journalist Tariq Shamsuddin Haddad? Yes, I heard about him. In fact, yesterday I read his last interview with the innocent girl. I am the one, and this is the innocent girl, Muna, who got kidnapped and raped by Al-Wish and his 5 gangsters. When the surgeon heard these words, he was surprised, rose to his feet, and shook hands with the visitors. I'm happy to see you face to face, my innocent daughter. I'm very concerned about your problem. Praise be to God who saved you from those human monsters. Dear sir, Mona said quietly, thank you. But I understood from the interview that you still don't agree with Inspector Hussein's word about the 6th criminal who is called the magician. Salah said, that is why we are here, sir. I don't understand what you mean. I mean to say the notorious criminal, the magician, is still at large. Inspector Hussein Hassan Hassanin is responsible for the crime of kidnapping and rape. Sir, said the journalist, this is the good citizen who directed the power of the police to the brothel and tavern where the crime occurred. How do you prove to me that he is the same good citizen? Sir, Salah said impatiently, if you want us to prove everything to you now, there will be no need for a judge and a lawyer. I myself am a recognized attorney. So my humble advice to you is to accompany us to the house of the magician Umar and the innocent girl Muna and Walid Hamza, the good citizen, recognize him as one of the criminals who kidnapped and raped her. When this is done, your duty as a police officer is to arrest him and take him to jail. Then the police interrogators will extract the truth from him in the interrogation room. Suddenly, Sergeant Muhammad Abdul Nabi became serious. He rose to his feet and ordered his 4 policemen to ready for arrest. He then hung on the door a large banner which read in big letters, "This police office is officially transferred to the Arwina area. Accordingly, no further complaint will be accepted here." In the meantime, the next day, when the conspirators discovered that the girl Badriya, whom they married to the good citizen Walid Hamza, had run away from the house, Said Osman al-Taib insisted on the need to pay the blackmailer Walid Hamza the money and tells him that the teenage girl, Omar's sister, who is married to him in his absence, would be handed over to him as soon as possible as his lawful Muslim wife. They shall do that when they find out where she is hiding. Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, Haj Muhammad, and Said Mahjoub al-Hilali went to the bank, withdrew the money, and went to Intisar's house. Upon their arrival, the mother Sarah told them that her son Usman and her 2 daughters, Farida and Intisar, were not at home. However, the guests insisted on waiting for them to return. As 3 conspirators hesitated to reveal the purpose of their visit to the mother, they suspected that the old woman might not be involved in the extortion business of the blackmailer. Besides, the gang leader, the old man, severely warned them that not to be deceived by his son Sami and his evil friends, and also ordered them not to hand over the 10 billion Sudanese bound until Omar's written and signed confession papers are handed over to them. Meanwhile, Mr. Osman Taib and his secretary, the nurse Dakia Karamallah, are waiting at Omar's house for their return. The old man is lying on a large royal bed, and next to him sits his beautiful and sexy nurse. Omar drinks beer and smokes bangu. At the same time, a tape recorder is playing some of Omar's favorite vulgar songs. In the kitchen, the Eritrean maid, Zahra, and the mothers, Haja Sakina, are busy preparing lunch for the rich business tycoon and his beautiful secretary, the Kia Karamallah. At noon, the peaceful atmosphere was disturbed by heavy knocking at the outer door. Mother rushed to the door. "Who is there?" she asked. "The police." "What do you want from us?" The mother slurred her words. "Open the door," shouted one of the cops. "We are women here, and there is no man in the house. I'm going to count from 1 to 10, and if you don't open the door, we'll force it open." There is no response from within, and so the counting begins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The frightened mother opened the door before the counting finished and stood aside to see the police. Immediately, the 5 policemen, 3 young men, and a beautiful girl entered the house. The policemen immediately spread out in different directions in search of the 6th criminal, the magician Omar. The first person found is the notorious criminal himself. He is hiding under the bed. The policemen drag him by his feet outside and handcuff him. When the innocent girl Mona saw him, she screamed loudly that he was one of her kidnappers and rapists. Then she kicked, slapped, and spit in his face until the cops pulled her away before she could kill him. The search resumed again, and the lovely nurse, the Kia, found hiding inside a large closet. She is dragged outside and forced to kneel beside the criminal Omar. The policemen continued their search again, and the third person was discovered hiding inside the toilet. The police knocked hard on the door, but he did not answer. As a result, Sergeant Muhammad Abdel Nabi started counting from 1 to 10. When the count was over and the door was not open, he ordered his men to demolish it. 2 policemen held each other for a 1 to 3 count and rushed towards the door, shoving it with their shoulders. Break the door. A third suspect was found inside the toilet, shaking in extreme panic. The police pulled him out and forced him to kneel next to the 2 other suspects. The search has resumed again. Omar's mother and her Eritrean maid, Zahra, were found hiding in the kitchen. The maid is a beautiful teenage Eritrean refugee girl, and her name is Zahra Abdi. Neither she nor the mother were arrested. The search has resumed. When no more people were found hiding anywhere, the search was halted. Frightened, Haja Sakina cried and pleaded with the policeman not to arrest her sick son. Police officers ignored her pleadings. The suspects were tied up, and taken to the police van outside the house. Meanwhile, many people gathered outside to witness the arrest of the notorious kidnapper and rapist, the magician Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, and the famous business tycoon Mr. Osman Taib, and his nurse and beautiful secretary, the Kia Karamallah.